2 people dead, many more injured as bandits wreak havoc, leaving a trail of Marakwet counties.
Kuja kufahamia watu wetu wenye walikuwa wanachunga mifugo yao, wengine walikuwa kwa shamba na wakapigwa marisasi.
Government and opposition now lock horns of a fresh Raila Ruto dialogue demands.
Hatua iliyochukuliwa ya kusitisha maandamano huwa anawaita viongozi wakuu wa muungano huo.
Azimio plans to hold a parliamentary group meeting Thursday as government threatens Odinga with EACC action. And some Kenyans who took part in the Azimio protests with the hope that it will reduce the cost of living now say they feel left out in the planned talks.
Sana naona ye kama ataenda apewe kazi na chakula ikose kuwa chini.
Well, good evening and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of News Tonight. On this 5th day of April 2023, we have a lot lined up for you in this broadcast. My name is Eric Munene, our sign language interpreter. At the bottom end of your screen is Catherine. Tonight, attacks by suspected gun-toting bandits continue to hit the headlines, with 2 people killed in 2 separate incidents and 2 seriously injured in Samburu County, with 3 people nursing gunshot wounds in Marakwet. These attacks, staged by daring armed criminals, taking place despite police and military men having an operation for more than 2 months and setting camp in 6 counties of the North Rift region. Moige William kickstarts this bulletin tonight.
Measures by the government, among them imposing curfew and deploying heavy military and police personnel along the Kerio Valley belt, are seemingly bearing little fruits if the increasing attacks being reported from parts of the areas classified as dangerous and disturbed by the Ministry of Interior are anything to go by. The latest attacks resulting to the death of 2 people in Samburu County. In 2 separate attacks, 2 more people were seriously injured in Olmolong and Ibonkare, Samburu West.
Akifika saa 10 wao tunakuja kufuata mbuzi, akashika mbuzi yetu akaoa mtu mmoja. Akifika sisi watu 3 majeraha.
One was had sustained injury at the back. We stitched the patient and he went home. The other one had sustained injury at the knee. We took him to theater in the morning. So we did some washout in the wound. The patient is now stable.
This coming after an earlier attack in Samburu West in the afternoon where 1 herdsman was shot dead by the suspected armed bandits. Residents now up in arms over the presence of the security personnel who have been deployed in the region.
Mtoto yangu nakupa anashunga ng'ombe usiku na sijui serikali inafanya nini. Sisi kuna shida kubwa sana.
Kama watoto ile kidogo ndio nakufa. Sasa taendelea na nini sasa? Wanyama yote meisha. Hata wanyama hakuna sayata moja. Hiyo ya wakora tu.
Kama hii operation amekuja kutusaidia, sijui kama amekuja kutumaliza, kwa sababu wakora wametufahamia kila wakati. Hii kijana yangu hajatenda kosa lolote. Aliuliwa tu akishunga mfugo yake.
The bodies of the 2 have been taken to the Samburu County Hospital mortuary. In another separate daring day attack in Marakwet, 3 people were left nursing gunshot wounds after yet another suspected bandit attack in Kapchemuta, Rwanda, making away with an unknown number of livestock.
2 young men and an older man, middle-aged, and 2 of them were in critical condition, sustaining gunshots to their chest regions for both of them. And the older man had some shrapnel injuries to his leg.
According to residents, the suspected cattle thieves opened fire indiscriminately at residents who were tending to their livestock before driving the stolen cattle to neighboring Baringo County.
Who is going to speak for the people of Kerio Valley who are losing lives and property daily?
Tukisema hata sasa tukae chini, mbegu wamelete, wamesema tuende kwa shamba, ndio hiyo kibo sasa. Hiyo mbegu sasa itaishi kwa nyumba na hakuna mwenye atapanda.
The injured are recuperating at the Iten Referral Hospital. Moige William, TV 47.
To politics now, Majority Leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, has hinted at inviting the International Criminal Court to monitor the opposition activities in Kenya. accusing opposition leader Raila Odinga of using violence and anarchy to blackmail the government. Ichung'wa says he will float the EACC agenda before the Kenya Kwanza Parliamentary Group meeting set to be tabled or held next week.
An accord which will then be passed by Parliament.
A day after Azimio One Kenya leader Raila Odinga seemingly gave fresh demands to the government side in the manner in which the engagement between the two sides will be held, the government side now says Odinga's fresh demands are a huge deal breaker.
Unatutisha ati kama hamutanipea nusu mkate, kama hamutaweka national accord, nijue venye nitajiingiza mkono kwa serikali, ati nitaendelea na maandamano. Na tunataka tumwambie Raila, hatuna shida na wewe kuandamana. Andamana kila siku, bora tu unaandamana kwa amani.
National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wa says Kenya Kwanza government will not be blackmailed by demonstrations and that they have already drafted a request which will be deliberated by the parliamentary group on Tuesday to request EACC to investigate Raila Odinga.
I will propose an agenda to our parliamentary group meeting next week that we write to the EACC to take measures to ensure that Raila Odinga and his sponsors do not slide our country back into anarchy.
At the same time, National Assembly Chief Whip Sylvanus Osoro has downplayed Odinga's demands of national accord, saying they will not be embraced in Kenya. A section of legislators have constantly castigated the 2018 handshake, saying it led to them acquiring a dilapidated economy.
Hiyo timu ndio itaenda kufanya maneno ya bipartisan. Tunaomba pia Azimio itengeneza yao. Na tunaamini ya kwamba tutatengeneza an agreement vizuri na heshima. Hatutaki vita, tunahitaji heshima.
The National Accord and Reconciliation Act of 2008 followed an agreement that was signed on February 28, 2008, power sharing agreement between former President Mwai Kibaki and opposition leader Raila Odinga.
Your system of looting, your system of anarchy, your system of using bloodshed to blackmail the country will come to an end. And not next year, not after the next elections. This year, that system has come to an end.
Earlier on, President Ruto suggested a bipartisan engagement that will strictly be held in Parliament, particularly on the reconstruction of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, EACC. Flora Limuki, TV 47.
Now, moving on, the bipartisan approach suggested by President William Ruto, I beg your pardon, aimed at solving some of the issues raised by the opposition leader Raila Odinga and continues to attract mixed reactions from a section of Kenyans who feel they may be left at a worse position should the two leaders decide to work together. Odinga has given a list of demands he wants addressed by the Kenya Kwanza administration in the bipartisan approach, as Michael Gongo now tells us.
Even after the dust settled on last year's general election, matters to do with the cost of living continue to be fodder for political rhetoric across the country. The latest being the protest by the Azimio Brigade, which singled out the unbearable rise in the prices of basic commodities as one of the reasons to call for nationwide anti-government demonstrations.
Hii serikali kuipata in checks and balances nafuatwa na position kali. Sasa wakimuingiza pale watakuwa wameharibu. Kwa ajili Raila ni mzuri kwa opposition sana. Ukimuingiza pale akichukua na nyamaza, sasa mnarudi pale pale mmetoka.
Ikiendelea hivi na pia hali ya uchumi inadhoofika. Kiuchumi tunarudi chini badala ya uchumi ilikuwa imeanza kuwa vizuri. Lakini kama kuna stability na kila mmoja anafanya kazi yake vile mtu anaweza kufanya kazi yake na apate mapato yake ili anaweza kumsaidia yeye na familia yake, kuna mtu akona shida na bora na bei ya mafuta hizo na
Besides there being many other reasons for the protest, including the reconstitution of the IEBC, a majority of Kenyans say they took to the streets to champion for the reduction of the price of basic commodities, which will then lead to a reduction of the cost of living.
Watu wengi wenye wanaandamana ni watu wenye wako idle kama vijana wetu sasa. Wako idle, ana kitu yenye anafanya, unaona. Hasa inabidi atoka aende idle huko akinini, yani at ataka mahali penye inanimuinfluence ndio ya kukaa kwa nyumba.
In Kibera, the political bedrock of Azimio leader Raila Odinga, a section of residents have seemingly returned to their normal activities. For most of them, many who participated in the protest, it is a bitter-sweet moment. Sweet because it seems their protest plea has been heard, and bitter because they feel like their issues will not be taken into consideration.
Sana sana naona ye kama ataenda apewe kazi na chakula ikose kuwa chini, ikose kuteremka, yeye ndiye atakuwa amefaitika kama vile handshake ilimfanyia.
Akikuwa ngoja hakuna mwingine ana msimamo kama yake hiyo. Sasa yeye ubaya na akienda kwa serikali na sawa. Sasa yeye ni mzuri huko upande mwingine. Kwa hivyo hata asifai kupigwa. Sio wao wanapiga vita ni kama anafanya kitu nyuma ya kikatiba.
They say the truce between the political arch-nemesis will leave them exposed and that they fear being left out in the process.
Maandamano haikutusaidia isipokuwa imerudi kuleta pengine kama ulikuwa unafungua duka yako ndio unapata mapato yako hapo, hujafunga duka ama duka inakuja na porwa.
A section of fresh demands from Odinga include wholesome talks, as was the case in 2008, inclusion of all core principles of both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza coalitions, inclusion of a mediator like was the case of Kofi Annan in 2008, withdrawing all cases against Azimio supporters arrested during the 2-week protest, and compensating all who were injured during the demos.
It's very unfortunate for somebody to think that he can slow down Raila Odinga just by mere intimation of intentions. And you can see they have come out very clearly saying that the issues that are being raised are not exclusively for parliament. Because we are raising very serious constitutional issues.
According to political analyst Professor Macharia Munene,
both sides, I think it was the right step in the right direction. It will not resolve, but it has tried to settle.
Tonight, a truce in the horizon with hustlers feeling hustled.
Wale wanapiga tuzo na unakana mvira mdomani anafanya kija haki. Kwa opposition kwa mzuri kwa juu akienda kutaribu maneno itakuwa mbaya.
Iregesho chini mambo ya taxation ile imekuwa mingi.
Hii chakula kusema kweli unga iko juu. Na hata Ruto kabla hajaingia ilikuwa juu kweli. To say the truth.
Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, victims of the protests led by the Azimio la Umoja coalition have continued with their cry for justice as many children remain at home following the wounds caused during the demonstrations. Women, the youth and children have since been described as the most affected group who continue to bear the deepest scars. Our reporter Elizabeth Atieno visited a section of victims from Mathare here in Nairobi and filed this report voiced by Zainab Mohammed.
Thursday, the 30th of March 2023 is a date that will forever remain deeply engraved for many residents in Nairobi's Mathare area. On that day, one could barely see the view of this area after a cloud of smoke emanating from tear gas lobbed by police officers to tame angry protesters rented the air. Residents here can vividly recall what ensued on that day.
Maandamano, mimi nilikuwa kwa nyumba, nilikuwa na mtoto. Juu sikuwa nataka kutoka nje juu ya hiyo tear gas. Sasa nikasema acha nikae kwa nyumba nikiwatch vitu zenye zinafanyika. Kidogo tukasikia tear gas kwa mlango. Ile yenye ati nachukua mtoto naenda kutoka, ingine ikaanguka kwa nyumba. Sasa mimi nilikimbia tu na mtoto kama natoa pofu kwa mdomo. Hakukuwa nasikia poa. Sasa hii asikii poa, kifua imejaa na kohoa.
Ni mmoja nimeathirika, lakini mimi nilikujua tu kwa nyumba. Nikakatwa na panga, nikapepewa kila kitu. Lakini kwangu naweza omba wakubwa wakae chini waongee. Sisi wenye tuko chini ndio tunaumia.
Kwa watchman walinigonga kichwa. Sasa siwezi enda job juu watchman hawezi kuwa na dent. Badala tulikuwa tunaandamana juu ya unga, wanatupea tear gas. Hatukuwa tunataka tear gas, tulikuwa tunataka unga.
Morena Koth is a mother of 5. She's now forced to carry her 5-year-old son to every place she goes. Her son is unable to walk after he sustained serious injuries from the protests that have forced her to be a caregiver for her children who continue to recuperate from the physical and psychological wounds caused by the violent demos.
Dakika kidogo tukashtukia tear gas imerushwa juu ya mabati. Na hapo kulikuwa na watoto wengi. Tukasema tufungue mlango ili watoto wasipumue hiyo tear gas sana. Kufungua mlango vile tu tumefungua hivi tear gas tena ikarushwa ndani ya nyumba. Sasa kurushwa ndani ya nyumba watoto wakashtuka. Tulikuwa na baba moja yeye kwenda kurogota hii tear gas arusha nje ikamchoma na akaiachilia chini. Na akiachilia chini watoto wakashtuka, kila mtoto akaruka chini. Sasa tear gas ikalipuka kama watoto wamesimama chini. Kulipuka watoto wakaumia.
For Pauline, it all began as a normal working day. She even went to work as usual, but everything changed when she received a distressing phone call from home.
Watoto walikuwa ndani ya nyumba. Na watoto wakichukuliwa walikuwa wamepelekwa kwa huyu mama ametoka hapa saizi. Ndio mali watoto walikuwa. Kumbe hizo tear gas zilikuwa zinarushwa, zinatoboa mabati na zinaingia kwa nyumba. So juu ni watoto na juu kitu yenye anafanya, wakati tear gas iliingia alikanyaga.
A section of the affected families have been forced to amplify their voices through singing just so their message is made loud and clear to the targeted persons and authorities who are still silent on the matter.
Watu wameumia hapa. Watu wameumia hapa. Akuje aone venye watoto wamechomeka na tear gas. Akuje aone venye watu wameumia. Hawa wote. Hiyo apology lazima ifike kwa wao, sio kwa TV. Aongee hapa, watu wajue kwamba ameapologize. So we are saying no dialogue without the involvement of the people.
Because it is the women and the children who suffer at the end of it all. You have seen all these people here, mothers with their children. Where are they supposed to take these children? People have not even gotten health care. They did not get first aid or any medical attention.
A clarion call has now been made to the government and the opposition to solve the high cost of living crisis that continues to affect thousands of Kenyans. Further, human rights activists are calling for compensation for those affected by the protests.
Well, moving on, EACC Chair nominee Bishop David Oginde says a few tweaks in the mandate of the anti-graft agency will go a long way in steps to rid the country of corruption. Oginde, who put his net worth at 170 million shillings, says he still has faith that if cleared, he could turn around the negative narrative of the war against corruption in the country.
EACC looks very good on the face of it. But in terms of value, you've had conversations that we are losing 2 million shillings in this country every day.
With the war on corruption remaining an emotive matter in the country, the man seconded by the president to take over the mantle at the anti-graft agency appeared before Parliament to explain his vision on what he believes would be the best way to slay the graft dragon once and for all. The former Sitam presiding bishop proposes that the agency responsible for investigating graft should also be tasked with prosecutorial powers of the same.
Then we would work with the relevant prosecutorial agencies to help prosecute these cases in a way that helps the courts to reach the right kind of judgment, whether the person is guilty or not guilty. And like the lawyers I hear say, justice must not just be done, but it must be seen to be done.
Oginde, who appeared before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, says he will fight to also sort out structural issues like delay in cases, which according to him weaken the war on graft.
But as long as some of these cases are dragging on for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and the same people are using the proceeds of what they have acquired to manipulate the systems, then people begin to believe that corruption actually pays. There was a survey that was done a few years ago, and the young people, university students who are being interviewed, said they don't mind corruption unless provided they are not caught.
In a report released by the Transparency International Kenya January this year, Kenya obtained a score of 32 out of 100, a slight improvement from a score of 30 points in 2021, and is ranked position 123 out of the 180 countries and territories assessed on the Global Corruption Index, a scenario Ginde vows to turn around.
Remember, you're looking for a job.
Yes, I am.
And Kenyans want to judge you.
Yes.
So I asked you, what matrix do you want the Kenya to judge you? What are these things you want to tick and say, I did this, I did X, I did Y. So at least can see we gave the job to the right person and has been able to achieve either 80% and give you an A or a B or a C, or even give you an F.
Judges that are withdrawn against that person. Would you now take the moral authority yourself, at least to help this country, and decide for your from your position and say, I'm sorry, I can't achieve anything in the light of what has happened, and take a walk? Because that way, the country will go into a moral debate again. Are you willing to take the moral high stand? So churches are considered charity, and therefore, if you get money for church, you cannot put it into something else other than for the purposes of the church. So there was a case in which some of the money was put in a project that was not directly related to church work. This pastor was arrested, was investigated, and was convicted.
The committee, chaired by Tharaka Nithi MP Gitonga Murugara, is undertaking the vetting in accordance with Standing Order 45 and Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2012, which outlines the roles of committees in considering presidential nominations. The former Sitam Church presiding bishop was picked by President William Ruto last month, and his name was forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration. Bishop Uginde, who has put his net worth at 170 million shillings, was also one of the 3 individuals who had been shortlisted by the Public Service Commission to succeed Archbishop Emeritus Dr. Elirua Bukala. The other 2 were former Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana and Amani Komara. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Moving on, the family of the late Miriam Nyamachanja, who was a student of Mukumu Girls High School, is now blaming the school's management for the death of their kin. Nyamachanja plus 1 other student died following a suspected food poisoning in the school. The family says the level of cleanliness in Mukumu Girls is wanting and should be addressed with immediate effect. And as Andrin Kilemi now tells us, findings from the Kenya Medical Research Institute indicate that the learners were suffering from a bacterial infection, typhoid and amoeba, contrary to fears that they had contracted cholera.
A somber mood has engulfed the home of the late Miriam Nyamachanja, who was a Form 2 student at Mukumu Girls High School and who succumbed from suspected food poisoning. Miriam's mother carefully folding her daughter's school uniforms with tears rolling down her cheeks. These personal attires belonging to her daughter will now remain but just as memories. The family is now pointing an accusing finger to the school management, attributing negligence in maintaining the school's cleanliness.
Na conjunction ya watoto, hiyo shule haina space ya kutosha.
Vile tulienda huko nilishangaa na hiyo shule, hata niliambia baba yake vile tulikuja, nikasema na hiyo shule kweli afya usafi iko chini kabisa. Tumeenda ukifungua kila choo imejaa hii ya kuflash, imejaa mpaka hata imemwakika chini, na mwanafunzi anatoka huko na maji ya 3 liter atamwakilia tu hivi na mikono.
Doctors report affected liver and kidneys in the patients, even as findings from the Kenya Medical Research Institute has revealed that the students of Mukumu Girls High School suffered a bacterial infection, typhoid and amoeba, contrary to the suspected cholera.
The patient samples tested negative for cholera, which many people were suspecting that it could be the case, but so far all of them have tested negative. And as you are aware, we are dealing with the Marburg virus in our neighboring country in Tanzania. We also had suspicion that that could be the case, but so far this has been ruled out.
An inspection has been done, an assessment has been done about the school, and I would want to make it clear where there were negligences, where there will be issues that needs to be addressed, and where there are consequences that must be taken. then as government and as ministry, we shall make sure that is done.
A total of 26 girls from Mukumu are still recuperating at the Kakamega Level 4 Hospital and Mukumu Mission Hospital, even as preparations to lay Miriam to rest are underway at her home in Luvambi Village, Kakamega County. Andrine Kilemi, TV 47.
Now, still on matters health, 60% of men are ailing from kidney-related diseases compared to 40% of women in the country. This is according to experts who say the prevalence of some of the factors contributing to the high number of cases in men than women include limited health-seeking behavior in men and recklessness as far as health conditions are concerned. The experts further say the country's disease burden has tremendously gone up due to COVID-19, which has contributed to acute kidney conditions. They, however, warn that early diagnosis of risk factors is key in the treatment and management of kidney-related diseases in the country.
The reason why kidney diseases have become more and we are recognizing them late is that we are missing the risk factors. And both the primary care physician, the home care physician, the nurses, the medical colleges, they should all congregate together to teach the younger generation to pick up the disease early. Nephrologists come late into the picture. By the time patient comes to people like me, the disease is fairly advanced. What can I do? Because the disease which has been there since 10 years, smoldering slowly, growing slowly like an iceberg, which you see only the tip. And then by the time they reach the specialist like me, I can only offer a renal replacement. Your kidney is damaged, less than 10%, I offer dialysis and transplant. So that is where the impetus has shifted of the medical care from primary prevention to secondary provision of dialysis and transplant, which is very costly, both for the patient, the family, the governments across the world. We are addressing the problem in its failed state. I cannot cure the disease at that point. I cannot cure a patient on dialysis back to normal.
At 5:30 time now for a very short break. Don't go away, we'll be back.
Me the way that you do. Somebody can love you the way that I do. Kama ulisafa sahau, karibu sapa kwa bahati nzuri.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history.
Nikifika watu wangu watu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county.
Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand what it means for those affected directly and indirectly.
Everybody's life, mine has also been faced with ups and downs.
If it becomes a self-stigmatized thing where you feel like you are judging yourself too harsh, you blame yourself, and you perceive that it happened because you failed.
Join me, Zainab Mohammed, on Beyond the Limit every Saturday at 7:30 p.m.
An entrepreneur is defined as someone who has the ability and desire to establish, administer, and succeed in a startup venture along with the risks entitled to it to make profits.
I'm a professional financier with a professional paper in banking. However, for fashion, it's something I've always loved ever since I was small.
Started as a baby business. It was all about, you have your machines, the haircuts, where
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Tonight, Azimio Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga will be leading his troops to Machakos County on Thursday for the Azimio Parliamentary Group meeting, where the bipartisan process to resolve the ongoing political standoff is top on the agenda. The Parliamentary Group meeting is also expected to ratify the next course of action should President William Ruto fail to heed to the opposition's fresh demands. And as our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau tells us, this comes as Azimio and Kenya Kwanza coalitions brace to endorse names to the ad hoc committee expected to steer the bipartisan process.
The race to broker the ongoing stalemate between Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio coalition kicks off in earnest on Thursday, when the two sides hold their respective parliamentary group meetings. The Azimio coalition, fresh with new demands, will be in Machakos County, where coalition leader Raila Odinga will be seeking his coalition's approval on the list of his negotiating team, a fresh mandate on the talks with President William Ruto, and the fate of mass action slated this coming Monday if the president does not heed to their demands.
Na jinsi ninavyomjua Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga kama kiongozi wa muungano huu wetu, kila wakati ambapo anachukua hatua yoyote ambaye ni kubwa kama jinsi ambavyo hatua iliyochukuliwa ya kusitisha maandamano, huwa anawaita viongozi wakuu wa muungano huo, haswa wale waliochaguliwa, ili kuwaelezea hatua hiyo ilichukuliwa kwa njia gani na inaashiria nini kwa mwelekeo wa ile coalition yetu.
Kenya Kwanza, which will meet on Tuesday next week to approve names to the bipartisan ad hoc committee, accused Odinga and Azimio of shifting goalposts, while dismissing claims that there was engagement between the president and Odinga on the form and the issues to be handled by the bipartisan team.
Nothing extra legal, nothing extra constitutional. So we get concerned when we begin hearing words like national accord, which is euphemism for nusu mkate or handshake. That's not within our realm as parliament. That's not, we are the law-making house. We cannot be leading in breaking the law.
There has not been any direct communication between His Excellency the President and Right Honorable Raila Odinga. So the issue of one being ingenuine to the other is neither here nor there. What the President did is to open an olive branch and an invitation, kinda, to the round table discussion through a legally or through a constituted body called Parliament. And for him, like we've said over time, he has a higher responsibility to unite the country.
While issuing fresh demands on Tuesday, Odinga opposed a pure bipartisan parliamentary process, stressing the need for the team to be opened up to include leaders outside parliament. Kenya Kwanza wants Azimio to foot the bill for its appointees outside parliament.
They have Otiende Amolo. What Makau Mutua can do, Otiende Amolo can even do better. He's equally a well-polished lawyer. You really do not need to overload this whole thing and blot it and make it look like there is something. That is why we say that it appears to us that Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga does not know, plus Azimio, do not know what they want. We are open for this conversation, but we will not allow the government of national unity. We will not allow a handshake. Let's talk matters that were earlier raised. You raised the issues to do with IEBC. We are willing to negotiate.
The two sides are yet to agree on the membership of the ad hoc committee, but are expected to range from 7 to 15 members on either side. The sticking point, which is likely to stall the talks, remains the opening of IEBC servers, which Kenya Kwanza is fiercely opposed to.
We thank God that it has rained, and we call upon the opposition leader that those energies that is taking on the street, let them redirect those energies to their chambers so that they can till. And that is the only known formula of reducing the cost of production, of reducing the cost of food.
With both sides retreating to their hardline positions, attention now shifts to who will broker another truce as the clock winds down to next week. Apul Kamau, TV47, outside Parliament buildings.
Well, thank you, Apollo Kamau, for that. Kenya and Rwanda have signed a memorandum of understanding in 10 areas of cooperation to bolster the relations between the two countries. While wrapping up his two-day visit in Rwanda, President William Ruto has further urged Kenyans living in the diaspora to invest more in Kenya. Stanley Nyeringita with that report.
Very good. Wednesday, President William Ruto has encouraged Kenyans living in diaspora to invest more in the country. Very good. Addressing Kenyans living in Rwanda, Ruto noted that Rwanda and Kenya enjoy warm and cordial relations, especially in education, ICT, agriculture, among other areas.
I know you've said we should manage issues, and I agree with you. Part of managing our issues is not just to be able to collect tax, but we must also look after that tax. It must not be stolen, it must not be lost, it must not be wasted. It must be used for the right thing.
The head of state further reiterated the key role of private sector in creating job opportunities in the country. This even as he lauded the human capital in the country.
Yes, we can grow our country using our taxes. Yes, we can add on to that the money that we can borrow from multilateral and other bilateral engagements. But much more importantly, beyond what we can raise, what we can do with our taxes, beyond what we can do with money that we borrow, we must also position ourselves so that with the private sector, we can bring in foreign direct investment.
On his part, Cabinet Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Alfred Mutua, has promised Kenyans in Rwanda that the ministry is continuing to smoothen the welfare of Kenyans living in diaspora.
We want to make you business people. We'd like you to trade. We want you to invest not only in the country you're living in, but also to invest in Kenya. So when we come out here and we say we want to get foreign investors, we want also Kenyans who are overseas to also invest in Kenya. So jipange, tupange, tupangane, muinvest nyumbani.
At the same time, President William Ruto has urged Rwanda to utilize the services of the port of Mombasa, further noting that the port also offers cargo owners the option to collect goods at the Naivasha Inland Container Depot. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47, Nairobi.
Moving on, the youth have been challenged to be the engine that drives peace and development in the country by avoiding politicians who are using them for chaos and violence, and instead associate themselves with visionary leaders and not self-centered leaders who have no development agenda. Titi Josephine tells us more.
Speaking during a meeting in Nakuru West Sub-County organized by Midrift Human Rights Network, Calvin Muga, a program officer at Midrift, noted that only a peaceful atmosphere could guarantee meaningful development and socio-economic prosperity for all.
Kwa sababu mambo muhimu sana hayawezi yakafanyika kama hakuna amani. Hatuwezi tukaenda sokoni kama hakuna amani. Wale Wakristo na Waislamu hawawezi wakaenda msikitini ama kanisani kama hakuna amani. Hatuwezi tukafanya biashara kama hakuna amani. Inamaanisha kwamba amani ni kitu muhimu sana.
Muga cautioned the youth to desist from being used by selfish politicians to foment trouble and perpetrate violence in the name of airing their grievances.
Kuna vijana wako hapa, kuna wakina mama wako hapa, na kuna wakina baba wako hapa, na wote wako kwenye vikundi tofauti. Ile ujumbe ambayo tutatoka nayo hapa, ombi letu ni kwamba wakati ambapo wanaenda pale nje, waende wasafirishe hiyo ujumbe ama wafikishe hiyo ujumbe kwa wale ambao wamebaki pale nyumbani. Kwa sababu hawa wenye wako hapa ni viongozi, wale ambao wako na wale wafuasi wao pia, watu ambao wanawasikiza vizuri sana.
Chanzo kuu ya siasa hizi kuleta uhasama ndani yetu ni ukabila, ambayo kwa mara mingi inahubiriwa na wanasiasa, na pia vile ile malezi ambayo tunapata kutoka utotoni. So ningependa kuhimiza vijana wenzangu ya kwamba waweze kuembrace vijana wenzao irrespective of their tribe, irrespective of their political affiliation, na kuambia kwamba everybody has a right to vote, a right to associate with any political party.
On a political truce between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, the leaders have welcomed the dialogue initiative, urging Kenyans to remain peaceful and end the political stalemate witnessed in the country.
Tumeona juzi Rais William Ruto na Raila Odinga wameamua ya kwamba wataform ile Bipartisan committee. Tuwapatie hao wangwana wawili nafasi ya kufanya hiyo kazi. Okay? Ya kuteua wale ambao watakaa katika hizo committee na kuhakikisha kwamba yale masuala ambayo yalikuwa yanaibukiwa ama yanaletwa na Raila Odinga, basi wametafuta jinsi ya kufanya nini, ya kuangalia. Lakini sisi hapa chini, kile ambacho ni muhimu sana kwetu sisi hapa chini kama wananchi wa hapa chini, ni kuhakikisha kwamba tumezidi kuweka amani hata wakati ambapo wangwana wale wawili wanapata kuzungumza pale.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Moving on, the State Department of Immigration and Citizen Services has received a consignment of 100,000 passport booklets in a bid to mitigate the current backlog of applications. And as our reporter Ronnie Regan reports, this will see Kenyans enjoying the skies.
Addressing the media at Nyayo House on Wednesday, Immigration Principal Secretary Julius Bitok said the move is part of urgent measures towards implementing solutions to promote efficient services delivery in the Immigration Department.
As you may be aware, there has been delays in issuance of passport because our stocks were very low. But today I'm happy to announce that we have received over 100,000 booklets for passports. So from now, the process of issuance of passports will be faster, will be more efficient, and I urge all Kenyans to turn out, those who have not received passports, to come and pick this very important document.
According to Bitok, Kenyans will now have to access the services at their comfort without depending so much on visiting the Nyayo premises.
If you get to your eCitizen account, you can apply for your passport, you come for your biometrics, and it is taken, and you can get your passport as soon as possible. Probably within 21 days you should have your passport. So I want to urge Kenyans not to be trying to use middlemen or use other brokers. Come for your passport. Get to eCitizen, get your account, apply your passport, and you'll get it almost immediately without any further delay.
He also notified that another consignment of the same quantity of passports is expected to be delivered before the end of April this year.
Right now we have received about 100,000. By the end of this month again we are expecting another 100,000, and from now going forward we shall not have this problem of passports.
Further, Bitok informed that the government is in talks with the different suppliers on the possibility of having a public-private partnership to enable passports to be manufactured and printed here in Kenya.
Right now we have just had a discussion with one of the vendors, and we are optimistic that soon we are going to make these passports right here in Kenya. And I think that is the way to go. And as you are aware, the current government policy is on PPP. So the persons we are negotiating with are on a PPP arrangement so that we don't have to wait for passports to come from abroad.